Hi there, welcome back. All right, this is part 4 of this Bang & Olufsen BeoCenter 5000. Now, having fitted the board back in, the tone board, there it is. I've connected all the connectors except the input selector, which is that little one over there. And I've got this connected to the dummy load, which is now back on the shelf where it should be. I've got speakers selected. I have it plugged in to the dim bulb tester. And I'm just going to hit the switch. I think that's what I'm going to do. Ready. I've got one bulb selected. All the others are off. It's on limit. It's on safety. The functions of this dim bulb tester I've described in the build videos of this. It's actually quite nice. So that is on. That means there's a 40 watt bulb in series, which means that if it's a direct short, it will draw, what, I don't know, 1/6 of an amp or so. So I'm going to hit it. I don't know what the settings are on the front actually, but what the hell. Whoa. Whoa! What am I hearing? That sounds like radio. That is definitely radio static. Let me put it off. Quite frankly, I don't know what I've just heard there. But I've got an idea. Hang on, I've got an idea. Let's see what input this thing is receiving right now. You see, this thing has actually got the 3 input selectors open. I've just got a plug in there. It's got 4. It's the same plug. This is the one that comes from the wherever. I've just got these in there. And these wires are just hanging loose so that I can, the idea was I could put 1s and 0s there at a later stage, but I think it's actually seeing something by default. And I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch it back on and see if the volume works. I should have done that. Hang on. Let's put it on again. Okay, let's go to the volume control. Oh yeah, oh yeah. The volume works. Okay, so the volume control works. Let's try the balance. Yeah, you can't hear it probably, but I can see it, or I can hear it going from one speaker to the other. Let's try treble. Treble definitely works. Let's try bass. And bass works. What else was on there? Loudness. Yep. Let me put the volume down. Okay. That is not the way to do a test, but especially when your nerves are still a little bit shaky from the noise I suddenly got. But anyway, what have we determined? We've got some noise coming out. It sounds like radio. I don't know what it is. It could be FM or AM or the presets or whatever. We've got the volume control is working. The balance control is working. The treble and the bass controls are working. And the loudness switch is working. So all the functions of this tone board are seemingly working. And that means we're getting supply and everything else to there because the volume control, the treble and the bass control all use voltage reference to set the levels. So that is working. Now what I want to do is I want to see what is coming through there. And the way to do that is I'm going to see what the logic levels are on those pins. Let me set that up. I've got the multimeter ground to the chassis. And I've got these 4 pins. Now, if I recall correctly, this second one is a non-used pin. We'll just measure that. Nothing. Okay, what's that one? That's the first pin. 2.7 volts. That one is the third pin, 2.7, and the fourth pin, 2.79. Okay, so they're all at a, I don't know whether that's a 1 or a 0. They're all at 2.79 or 2.8 volts. So let's go look at the data sheet for this chip. Okay, I've got the data sheet for that chip, the TDA1029, and I've had a look down here, and what I'm looking for is the truth table or the function table. Here we go. Okay, if we go up here and look at this schematic over here, what we've got is we've got pin 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. These are inputs, and they are two stereo groups. In other words, 1 to 4 is switched with switch 1, and 5 to 8 is switched with switch 2. So it seems, here it is, to switch them, you actually tie one of these to ground. It's not binary. It's actually just tying one of them to ground. In other words, you leave all of them floating except the one you want to switch to ground, which makes it quite a lot easier. So all we need to do is to see what we had here really was we had none of them tied to ground. Position 1 is also on there, and that is if nothing is tied to ground, which is exactly what we had there. So what happens when you have nothing tied to ground? Nothing tied to ground, you have to go back down here to the, here we go, truth table. So high, H, is when it's not tied to ground. So high, 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 this is the condition we have over there, and that tells us that it connects pin 1 to 15 and 5 to 9. Now if we look at the schematic, so we had all of these high, 1 to 15, 1 is, what is it? 1 is FM. Okay, FM, left channel, one of the channels was going through to 15. So we were hearing whatever's coming from the FM. That makes sense. And 5, pin 5, it's that one. Oh, that's the other side of the FM. So that was coming out. So what we were hearing there was actually the FM signal. Now that is interesting. That is interesting because, okay, I'm going to try something else now. I've got access to the, I don't have the FM antenna here. It's tied under the other half of this unit, but I do have access to the AM antenna. So what I'm going to do is try and simulate AM. Now what is AM? AM is pin 2 and pin 6. 2 and 6. If I can get these two switched through, they will go through to here. So I'll be able to hear that, but will I pick up anything? That's a good question. So what do I need to get pin 2 and 6? So I need to do something with these. I need to put one of these to ground. Let me just see which one. Pin 11 is 4, that's 3, that's 1. Okay, so it's 13, 12, 11 in the order we have there. Back to the data sheet. 2 and 6, I need to lower pin 13. Okay, so I need to put a 0 on pin 13 and see if we get AM. Let's try that. It's getting more interesting. Now the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to take a ground and I'm going to short pin 13, which is 1 over here, to ground. And I'm going to switch it on. What should I hear? I should hear AM, shouldn't I? Yeah, that makes sense. Let's try it. I don't hear anything. Let me put the volume up a bit. Oh yeah. That sounds like something. Okay, So far so good. Let me just connect an antenna on here. Okay, I've got an antenna on here. I've got the mini whip connected to the AM antenna input. We've got the same noise. Let's see if we can tune something. Oh yeah. I can hear something. Not much. But that is definitely radio. Okay, I'm definitely getting something. It's very difficult to discern, but there is audio. There is something coming out of here. Okay, we've chosen AM. Very, very poor reception. It seems like it's selecting AM. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fish out the FM antenna and see how that comes through. Let me do that. So if we assume correctly that the high state, or that the default state on this is FM, and I've got the, I'm going to connect this to the FM antenna, which is, according to that guy there, one of the end ones, or even, well, I guess I could try this, just try it here and use the long wire version. Let's try set it up just like that. See what happens. See if we get anything. Oh, of course, no, that's stupid. The FM antenna is not up here anymore. The FM antenna is actually floating around here. So I've got to connect that to here, because this then fits into there when you close the cover, and then that internally is connected to there. So let me connect it to the bottom. Okay, here goes nothing. Okay, we've got some noise. Give it a bit more volume. And now I'm going to try tune it. Nope. Got something. Ha 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 ha. That is FM. Very poor reception, but it's FM. Really poor reception, but yeah. Okay, well, the presets don't work, obviously. Switch that off. The presets don't work because the presets are selected by that little board in the front, and it sends signals to the microprocessor. But we have successfully managed to feed, or to allow, the AM to come through and the FM to come through, which tells me that provided you push the FM or the AM button at the front there, the actual blocks, the AM block or the AM circuitry and the FM circuitry is actually working. In other words, it seems that when you press AM at the front there, that's the AM board, that starts working, and you press FM and that one starts working. In fact, I think it might even be working even without pressing the select buttons. I think they might just be active all the time. It's a bit surprising, but it could be. So my plan was to inject a signal into the output of that selector chip, which is, you see those two capacitors down there, those two gold ones? I believe those are the two caps that come out of the output of that selector chip. And I wanted to inject a signal in there and see if I could get it coming through. Well, it seems we've actually gone one step further back. We've actually gone and checked the selection itself and the inputs of that board itself, and it seems to be working, although the reception is atrocious. It should not be that bad, but that's not the point. The purpose of this stage was to make sure that that was working. And what we found is that not only was what I expected to test working, but in fact, we know a bit more now. We know that we've got FM and we've got AM coming through of sorts, which is great news, really great news. And as someone suggested, I could probably get this thing working with a, sort of a manual switching system. Not that I want to, but at least we know that those things aren't dead. So let's have a look at the schematic and see what it is we've established. All right, this is what we had. And we were going to do a test of this board down here. And what I planned to do was actually to inject the signal here and here. In other words, I expected to inject a signal here on capacitor 25 and capacitor 26 as if it was coming from the switching circuit here, the switching IC, and that hopefully would come through here and find its way out to the output of this board to the power amplifier stage. Okay? Well, what have I found? Well, let's go in stages. We know the volume control is working. Volume control is working. We know that the balance control is working. Right, what else do we know? We know the treble and the bass controls are working. That's not bad so far. Okay. We also know that this whole thing here is working because the loudness is working. Okay. The loudness is working. This little board that holds the treble and the bass control is working. Therefore, that entire circuit here, this circuit here is working because it uses those signals. So we know this is working. We also know that the balance is working, so that board there, we can mark it off as green even though we haven't even seen it. And therefore, if that's working, we know that this stage here, or one part of it anyway, is working. We know the volume is working, so that board is okay, and therefore this entire system here is working. If we go one step back, well, let me just go one step forward. What don't we know? We don't know if this remote switching is working here, so we can't really tick that in, okay? But we can do quite a bit. All that, I love doing this, all that is working, it seems. Bar a few more tests we can do. So we've actually now cornered ourselves into this section here, and we know some of this is fine as well, because we left these three high or ungrounded, and we got FM coming in from here. That signal, that one, came out of 15, and this one, the one coming in here, went through there, that one coming out of 9. We know that's working. We know that this 6 comes out of there when you select the appropriate grounding. 13 was grounded, in other words, so we could select that. So we know all that is working, which means I'm inclined to paint this as well. I'm not going to because the amount of sound coming out of there, or rather the reception, is very, very bad, and I'm not sure if the reception is bad coming into the select chip or if it's being distorted or diminished here. It could actually have been diminished here, but I don't think so. But that is great news. That is really great news, because the next stage, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to select one of the other inputs like pickup or tape. What else have we got here? We've got FM, AM, we've got tape, we've got the pickup, FM, AM, tape, and pickup. So I can actually feed a signal. If I leave this, if I select one of these to go through, and because I have nothing coming in, I'm not playing a record or playing a tape, there should be nothing coming out of this chip. I could then set it up so that I can feed a sine wave on here and on here and really test the amplifier. So I'm going to do a little bit more experimenting on that and come back to you, because right now I just want to study this data sheet a bit more. I want to see what they mean by high and low. They don't really tell you, or do they? Where is the low voltage? Here it is. Required voltage, the control pins. Required voltage, high, greater than 3.3. Well, we didn't have 3.3, we had 2.8. So that's still low. Low is less than 2.1, and we put 0 on there, so that should be fine. I'm just concerned about that voltage. That was not greater than 3.3 volts, although it seems to have been giving us what it should give us, provided you consider a high input. So I'm going to do a little bit more checking and experimentation and all that, and then get back to you. For now, I'm going to stop this video here because I really do want to study this a bit more. And just to let you know that I'm going to continue with this project, but I'm also starting another one. I've received one of the radios that this lockdown delayed in the mail, but I've received one. It's I haven't opened it yet. I'm not even sure which one it is. I bought two. I think it's a GRUNDIG Type 90. It's one of those small GRUNDIG FM AM tube radios. So I'm going to be starting that project as well. And I'll be interspersing work on that with work on this one. As I said, this one is an academic experiment. It might become something I put on the right in the forefront if this thing starts really showing more promise. And it is. It's showing quite a bit of promise. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, please subscribe, share, like, and all that jazz. We're getting very, very close to 8,000 subscribers, which surprises me every time I see that number. And I've been once again reminded by my daughter that I promised when I get to 10,000 I would show my ugly mug. So if you don't want to see that, don't subscribe. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye for now and stay safe.